9 out of 10 drivers have never once thought about what's happening inside their coolant system. They top it off, they move on. Some of them are driving toward a $3,000 repair bill and have absolutely no idea. After over 20 years repairing car engines, I recently discovered a secret Japanese additive so effective that some of the largest repair chains in the country would genuinely rather you never heard of it. Today, I'll show you 15 reasons your coolant system is either protecting your engine or quietly destroying it, and one $2 solution changes the entire conversation. Let's break this down. Number 15. Your coolant is not just water, and most drivers treat it like it is. Let's start with the foundation, because everything else on this list builds on it, and most drivers have never been taught even the basics of what coolant actually does. Coolant, also called antifreeze, is a mixture of water and ethylene glycol combined with a package of chemical additives specifically designed to protect your engine's internal components. Here is the part most drivers never hear. The ethylene glycol in your coolant does not wear out. It stays effective almost indefinitely. What wears out is the additive package. Those rust inhibitors, those corrosion fighters, those lubricating compounds degrade over time through a process called additive depletion. And once they are gone, your coolant becomes essentially acidic water circulating through a metal engine. That is what depleted coolant does. But number 14 reveals what that damage actually looks like when mechanics open these engines up. Number 14. What depleted coolant actually costs you? The real numbers. Here is where the stakes become very real, very fast. When coolant loses its protective chemistry and becomes acidic, it attacks 3 major components in a predictable sequence. Understanding that sequence is the difference between a $20 fix and a $4,000 repair. First to go is typically the water pump. Corroded impeller blades reduce coolant flow efficiency before the pump fails completely. A water pump replacement runs between $250 and $500 on most vehicles, depending on whether it is an externally accessible pump or buried behind the timing cover. Second is the radiator. Internal corrosion deposits restrict coolant flow through the small tubes inside the radiator core. A new radiator costs between $300 and $700 plus labor. A performance vehicle or European import can exceed $1,000 for the part alone. Third is the thermostat housing, particularly on aluminum-heavy modern engines. Corrosion around the housing gasket surfaces leads to coolant leaks. Labor to access the thermostat on many modern engines is surprisingly significant. The part costs $20, the labor can cost $200. All 3 of these failure points share a common origin: neglected coolant chemistry, and all 3 are preventable with a $2 additive that repair shops have no financial incentive to tell you about. But before we get to that solution, number 13 is about the specific warning signs that your coolant chemistry is already failing. Signs that most drivers see and completely misinterpret. If this is the kind of information your repair shop has been hoping you'd never find, hit that subscribe button right now. We put out real, research-backed car maintenance knowledge every single week, and it only gets more valuable from here. Number 13. The warning signs your coolant is already failing and what they actually mean. Most drivers think coolant problems announce themselves with an overheating light or a visible leak. By the time either of those things happens, you are already dealing with a problem that has been developing for months or years. The real warning signs are earlier, subtler, and almost universally misread. Warning sign number 1, your coolant has changed color. Fresh coolant is typically bright green, orange, pink, or blue depending on the formulation. Coolant that has begun to degrade turns progressively darker, eventually becoming brown, rusty, or murky. Most drivers see this and think the fluid just needs to be topped off. What it actually means is that the additive package is depleted and rust particles from inside the system are now circulating freely. Warning sign number 2, a sweet smell coming from the heater vents. Ethylene glycol has a distinctly sweet odor. If you smell something sweet inside the cabin, particularly when the heater is running, coolant is reaching the heater core somehow, either through a small internal leak or through vapors from a degraded heater core seal. A driver named Angela from Houston ignored a sweet smell from her vents for 3 months. She kept spraying air freshener in the car and assumed it was something in the cabin filter. By the time her temperature gauge moved noticeably, her heater core had developed a significant internal leak. Heater core replacement on her 2017 Hyundai Sonata required removing the entire dashboard. The total repair bill came to $1,100. Now guess what? Number 12 is about a specific property of your coolant that virtually nobody measures at home, but absolutely everyone should. Number 12, the pH test. the $2 check that changes everything. Your coolant has a pH level. Fresh, properly functioning coolant sits at a pH of around 8.5 to 10.5, which is mildly alkaline. This alkalinity is what creates a protective chemical environment that resists rust and corrosion inside the metal components of your cooling system. Here is the part that makes this genuinely useful. You can test your coolant's pH at home in under 60 seconds using a pH test strip, the same kind used in aquarium testing kits and pool water testing. A pack of 100 strips costs approximately $2 to $4 online or at any hardware store. Dip a strip into your coolant overflow tank for 3 seconds. Compare the color change to the chart on the package. If your reading is above 8, your coolant chemistry is still functioning. If your reading is between 7 and 8, your additive package is depleted and needs attention. If your reading is at or below 7, you are already in acidic territory and your engine is under active chemical attack every time you drive. And now that you know how to measure the problem, number 11 is about why that problem develops so much faster in modern engines than it did in the vehicles your parents drove. Number 11, why modern engines destroy coolant faster than ever before. This is the part that repair shops genuinely do not volunteer, because understanding it undermines the business case for frequent, expensive coolant flushes. Many modern engines run at operating temperatures between 210 and 230 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to the 180 to 195 degree operating range typical of engines from the 1980s and 90s. Modern engines also use far more aluminum than older designs. Aluminum is lighter than iron and dissipates heat more efficiently, which is why it has become the dominant material in modern engine construction. The combination of higher operating temperatures accelerating additive depletion and aluminum construction being more vulnerable to the acidic result creates a situation where modern engines genuinely need more coolant maintenance attention than older engines, not less. Number 10 is about the specific Japanese additive technology that addresses this exact problem and why it was developed in Japan rather than anywhere else. Number 10, why Japan developed this solution first and why it makes complete sense. Japan has a specific relationship with automotive engineering that explains why this technology originated there and not in the United States or Europe. Japanese automakers, Toyota, Honda, Mazda, Nissan, and Subaru have spent decades building their global reputations almost entirely on long-term reliability. Out of this engineering culture and this ownership culture came the development of what Japanese mechanics and detailing professionals call coolant conditioner technology, specifically organic acid technology additives, or OAT additives, engineered to replenish the additive package in aging coolant without requiring a full system drain and refill. These additives work by reintroducing the corrosion inhibitors, the pH buffers, the scale inhibitors, and the water pump lubricants that have depleted from the existing coolant, effectively restoring the protective chemistry to near new condition at a fraction of the cost of a full coolant flush. And now, number 9 is the specific product category you need to find and exactly what to look for on the label to make sure you're getting the real chemistry and not a cheap imitation. Number 9, what to look for on the label and what to avoid. Not every coolant additive on the shelf is the same thing, and some of the products marketed as coolant treatments do more harm than good. Understanding what to look for takes about 60 seconds and saves you from buying the wrong product. What you want is a product labeled as an organic acid technology coolant conditioner or a carboxylate-based coolant additive. These are the same OAT chemistry used in long-life coolant formulations, and they are chemically compatible with virtually all modern coolant types. Look for these specific claims on the packaging: corrosion inhibitor, pH buffer, or pH stabilizer, compatible with all coolant colors or universal formula, and water pump lubricant. What you want to avoid is anything labeled as a stop leak additive or leak sealer being marketed as a coolant treatment. Stop leak products contain particulate fillers designed to physically plug small holes in the cooling system. They can and do clog the small passages in your heater core, your radiator, and your water pump, creating the exact blockage problems they were meant to solve elsewhere. A stop leak product used in a system without an active leak causes damage. It does not prevent it. Number 8 is about exactly how and when to add this conditioner for maximum effectiveness, because adding it at the wrong time or in the wrong proportion reduces its effectiveness significantly. Number 8. How and when to add the conditioner. Timing is everything. The correct application of a coolant conditioner is straightforward but specific, and the most common mistake drivers make when they first discover this product is adding too much, assuming more is better. First, never add anything to your cooling system when the engine is hot. The coolant system operates under pressure when the engine is at operating temperature. Opening the overflow tank or the radiator cap on a hot engine releases that pressure suddenly and can cause severe burns from escaping steam and coolant. Always wait until the engine has been off for at least 2 hours before opening any part of the cooling system. Second, add the conditioner to the overflow reservoir, not directly to the radiator. The overflow tank is the white or translucent plastic reservoir connected to the radiator by a small hose. Third, the correct dosage for most passenger vehicles is 1 treatment bottle per full cooling system capacity. Most passenger vehicles hold between 1.5 and 2 gallons of coolant total. Follow the product's dosing instructions based on system capacity, which you can find in your owner's manual under cooling system specifications. And number 7 reveals how often you actually need to do this, which is far less frequently than the maintenance schedule your shop hands you with every service reminder. Number 7, how often you actually need to treat your coolant. The answer depends on 3 factors: your vehicle's age, your engine's operating temperature, and how you drive. For a modern vehicle, 2010 or newer, with an aluminum-heavy engine running at higher operating temperatures, a pH test every 12,000 miles or once per year, whichever comes first, is the appropriate monitoring interval. If the pH test shows a reading above 8, no action is needed. If it drops to the 7.5 to 8 range, a single conditioner treatment restores the additive package. If it reads below 7.5, a full coolant flush followed by a fresh fill, and a conditioner treatment is the correct response. For an older vehicle, pre-2010, particularly one with a partially iron-based engine and a conventional green coolant system, testing every 15,000 miles is appropriate, with a conditioner treatment when pH drops into the 7.5 to 8 range. By comparison, a pH test strip costs pennies. A conditioner treatment costs $2 to $4. Moving on, number 6 is about something the shop service always does during a coolant flush that is genuinely valuable. The one part of that service you should absolutely replicate yourself at home. Number 6, the one thing a flush gets right and how to do it yourself for free. A professional coolant flush is not entirely without value. One thing it accomplishes that a simple conditioner treatment does not fully replicate is a physical purging of accumulated scale deposits and rust particles from inside the cooling system. You can replicate this benefit at home with a distilled water flush, and it costs essentially nothing beyond the price of a few gallons of distilled water. When your coolant is due for a full replacement, typically when the pH has dropped below 7 or the color has become significantly discolored, drain the old coolant from the radiator drain petcock located at the bottom corner of the radiator. Close the drain. Fill the system with distilled water only. Start the engine. Run it to operating temperature for 15 minutes. Shut it off and allow it to cool completely. Drain the distilled water, which will carry suspended particles and scale with it. Repeat once more with fresh distilled water. Then fill with the correct coolant to water ratio for your climate. Typically, 50% coolant to 50% distilled water, and add your conditioner treatment. Number 5 is about the specific myth that keeps repair shops earning coolant flush revenue that the chemistry of your system completely disproves. Number 5, the myth that keeps shops making money and the truth behind it. The myth goes like this: coolant breaks down over time and the entire fluid must be replaced to restore protection. This is the foundational premise behind every 30,000 mile coolant flush recommendation. Every "your coolant looks dark, we recommend a flush" upsell at the oil change counter, and every cooling system service package on every shop's menu board. Here is what is actually true. The ethylene glycol base of your coolant does not significantly degrade under normal operating conditions. Studies conducted by independent automotive chemistry researchers have confirmed that the glycol itself remains chemically stable for well over 100,000 miles of normal use. What depletes is the additive package, specifically the corrosion inhibitors, the pH buffers, and the scale inhibitors that protect the system. A chemical engineer named Dr. Yamamoto, who consults for a Japanese automotive parts manufacturer, described it using an analogy that makes immediate sense. Draining and replacing your coolant because the additive package has depleted is like throwing away a perfectly good car battery because the electrolyte level dropped. You do not replace the battery, you replenish the electrolyte. The base remains perfectly functional. Only the depleted component needs addressing. Number 4 is where this gets even more interesting because the conditioner does something a fresh coolant fill cannot fully replicate on its own. Number 4, the passive protection layer, what the conditioner builds inside your engine. This is the part of the Japanese coolant conditioner technology that separates it from simply topping off with fresh coolant, and it is the reason Japanese engineers describe it as building protection rather than just restoring it. Quality organic acid technology conditioners do not just replace depleted inhibitors. They actively deposit a passive protective molecular layer on the interior metal surfaces of the cooling system. This layer bonds to aluminum, iron, and copper surfaces at a molecular level and creates a barrier between the metal and the coolant, reducing direct chemical contact and dramatically slowing the rate at which future additive depletion affects the metal surfaces. Number 3 is about the specific temperature range, where this conditioner works hardest and where most engines are most vulnerable without it. Number 3, the temperature danger zone, where most engines suffer the most damage. Most drivers understand that extreme overheating is dangerous. What almost nobody understands is that the most damaging coolant chemistry effects occur not during dramatic overheating events, but during the ordinary temperature cycling your engine goes through every single time you start and stop the car. When a cold engine starts, the coolant temperature rises from ambient, perhaps 50 degrees Fahrenheit on a mild morning to full operating temperature of over 200 degrees in approximately 5 to 10 minutes. Additionally, the thermal cycling process creates microscopic flexing at every gasket surface, every hose connection, and every seal interface in the cooling system. Coolant that has adequate pH buffering maintains consistent chemistry through these temperature swings. Depleted coolant chemistry becomes more acidic at lower temperatures, meaning every cold start exposes your engine to a brief period of elevated acidity precisely when circulation is lowest. Now, number 2 is where everything we have discussed comes together into a single maintenance routine you can implement this weekend for under $10 total. Number 2, the complete Japanese coolant maintenance routine. Exactly what to do and when. Here is the complete practical routine built entirely on the Japanese methodology that gives your engine maximum coolant system protection at minimum cost. Step 1. Buy a pack of pH test strips rated for coolant testing or general liquid pH measurement. Cost $2 to $4. These last for dozens of tests from a single pack. Step 2. Test your coolant pH with the engine cold. Dip a strip into the overflow reservoir for 3 seconds and read the result. Record the reading and the current odometer mileage. If the reading is above 8, no action required. Test again at the next 12,000-mile interval. If the reading is between 7 and 8, add 1 treatment of a quality OAT-based Japanese coolant conditioner to the overflow reservoir with the engine cold. Cost $2 to $4. Retest in 1,000 miles to confirm pH has returned above 8. If the reading is below 7, perform a distilled water flush as described in number 6. Refill with a 50-50 mixture of the correct coolant for your vehicle and distilled water, and add a conditioner treatment to the fresh fill. Total cost $20 to $35. Step 3. Check coolant color at every oil change. If it remains the same color as fresh coolant for your formulation, pH is likely still acceptable. If it has begun to discolor noticeably, test pH regardless of mileage interval. Step 4. Physically inspect all visible coolant hoses at every oil change interval for cracking, swelling, or softness. Hose replacement costs $10 to $30 per hose. A burst hose on the highway costs a tow truck and potential engine damage from overheating. And finally, number 1 is the reason repair shops have absolutely no financial incentive to ever teach you any of this. It is explained in numbers so clearly that you will never look at a coolant flush upsell the same way again. Number 1, the math repair shops do not want you to do. Here is the math. Run it slowly, because every number here represents real money. The average American driver covers approximately 15,000 miles per year. A typical shop recommends a coolant flush every 30,000 miles, meaning approximately 1 flush every 2 years. At an average shop price of $150 per flush, that is $75 per year in coolant flush spending. Over 10 years of vehicle ownership, that is $750 in coolant flush services. Using the Japanese coolant conditioner method, pH test strips at 3 $3 per pack lasting 3 years equals approximately $1 per year. 1 to 2 conditioner treatments per year at $3 each equals $3 to $6 per year. A full distilled water flush and refill every 5 to 7 years at approximately $30 equals $4 to $6 per year averaged out. Total annual cost, $5 to $13 per year. Over 10 years, that's $50 to $130. But really, this matters even more than the flush cost. The Japanese method, when followed correctly, maintains coolant chemistry at a level that prevents the corrosion and scale buildup that leads to the real expensive failures. That is the number repair shops do not want you to run. That is the math behind the $2 liquid they would genuinely rather you never discovered. The product costs almost nothing. The knowledge it is built on took Japanese engineers decades to develop and refine. And now, you have both. If this video saved you from a repair bill you did not see coming, hit that like button right now. Also, subscribe now if you have not already. We break down exactly this kind of real, research-backed car maintenance knowledge every single week. The kind that keeps money in your pocket and keeps your car on the road longer. There is a video on your screen right now that goes even deeper into the maintenance habits that separate cars that reach 200,000 miles from the ones that do not. Click it on the left and I will meet you there.